All right, welcome back, ECA members and audience members. My name is Kenneth Ellington. This is episode 4 of our Ask Me Anything sessions for ECA. And today's talking points or talking point is going to be IT versus cybersecurity and what to expect on that. What path should you take? What's the easiest path to get in? And some of the pros and cons depending on what journey you want to take to reach your end goal. For my co-host I have on today is Paul Stout. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, excellent. Thank you for having me.
How
you doing, man?
I'm so tired from building up the cyber range in the app, but I'll make it through.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Now I think Nigel should be on a little bit later, but we'll still get started. So a couple of quick notes for everyone. If you don't join our cyber range, that's the biggest thing we've been promoting for the past month or so. Let me know. The link is inside of the top left-hand corner on my side. If you scan that QR code, should take you towards our site, and then I'll drop the link inside of the chat as well. Any questions or concerns you have for that, just let us know. Also, we've been posting more on our YouTube channel and create more content for that. So just let us know how you guys like that styling for it, images, talking points. So we can try to make it the best platform as possible for everyone involved. Otherwise, we'll get started for our main talking point. So I'll set the stage. People understand the two differences. So there's IT and there's cybersecurity. So IT is information technology. That's the foundation for any technology stack, really. So if you want to do observability, you want to do DevOps engineering, you want to do network engineering, you'll probably have to understand how IT works. And then you might want to pivot to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is all about protecting assets, digital and physical, for corporations. So I often get asked, Paul, like, what path should I take? Should I start off in IT or should I jump out to cybersecurity? For your initial thoughts, what do you think?
Well, seeing as how I started in IT, I'm definitely partial toward that path. I think it depends on kind of your background and where you come from with that. If you have really studied cyber more and feel more comfortable with the concepts, that's probably going to be a better point of entry. But if you've worked in a help desk role, or hell, even going back to my earlier days, if you were just kind of a tinker with computers and understand IT, at a certain point in your path, you're going to realize that a lot of these concepts overlap and a lot of these concepts build on each other. So I really just say it depends on where you're more comfortable with and what your background is.
Okay. Well, I guess, have you seen more people be successful jumping straight into cyber compared to IT from your experience?
I think there comes a point where it's almost a natural progression as you're learning more of IT. If you're growing with it, if you're understanding the concepts, you start to learn how to secure it naturally. I mentioned that I got started in IT, and that's going way back. My first professional experience was in writing code and developing web applications. And as part of secure coding, you've got to learn how to secure the applications that you build, and you've got to learn different attack vectors for it. And I think that's kind of the inflection point, because at the point that you understand how to secure it, how an adversary can break in, you can either continue the development path armed with that knowledge, or you can move into the security path and then start expanding your knowledge of different aspects of security.
Okay. I would definitely say that's a pretty good path, honestly. Questions I often get asked from that would be, well, Kenneth, I want to make a bunch of money, so which path should I take? And when I tell people that, I'm like, making a lot of money is fine, right? We all have bills we have to pay. But if money is purely your only goal, which again, it technically is fine, right? You can still get it done. I would tell you, if you really hate it and just in it for the money, you won't really last that long. You'll hit a certain threshold and you'll probably burn out and do something else. I'll tell people you don't have to love it, but you do have to at least like it, right? Because if you don't and you hate it, it gets very, very draining to wake up and work 50, 60 hours some weeks to do something that you absolutely hate. But purely from a financial standpoint, you'll make more in cybersecurity than you will in IT, because cybersecurity is a specialized field, right? If you do general IT, you won't get paid as much as you do any other specialty. So like observability speaking, like big data with like Splunk or Elastic, cybersecurity, like endpoint security and network security detection engineering, right? So this depends on like what you want to do from that standpoint. I know when I started out, this was God, I'm getting old, so I'm still kind of young. What was this, like 2018, 2019? I worked help desk at my local, well, not my personal church, but at a church back in Tampa. I think I got paid like 10.50. I don't know what the going rate is now, like in 2026 for it, but I'm sure it's a little bit more. So that was more than the most my friends were making. Most of my friends were making like $8. It wasn't too terrible. When I got to Publix as an intern, I was making, I think I was paying me $17 an hour. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so rich. So yeah, it just depends on like what type of role you want to get. So what do you think, Paul?
Yeah, you're right. The salaries are certainly going to be lower in IT, and I think that's maybe a function of there's just more people available to do it. It's, in my opinion, a bit of a lower barrier of entry. Certainly, the concepts still get complex, and that's why I try to qualify my path of entry is more of software engineering. Now, in fairness, I worked for IT groups, so that's kind of where I was coming from with that. So I guess it's a long-winded way of saying there's actually 3 points of entry on that one as well. But I agree with you. If you're in something for the money, if you don't actually enjoy what you're doing, you're going to burn out very, very quickly. And at a certain point in one's career, you understand that no amount of money can buy peace of mind, can buy being content in what you're doing, and can buy happiness.
Yeah, I can put this. So I see a lot of people that get really interested. They do like cybersecurity or technology overall. Then like the first roadblock they hit, they start to struggle because they don't have their why isn't really clear as to like why they're really doing it, right? Again, if you do it for money, it's fine, but you make money in a lot of different fields, probably quicker than technology, honestly. Right? So if your why isn't strong enough, you can't overcome the how to get into the field. Just where I see a lot of people trip up with for younger folks and people overall. So that's what I try to suggest towards people to like truly understand like the why you're doing this, right? Could be for your family, could be for yourself, could be to better your situation, doesn't matter. Your why needs to be very, very strong. But the journey can be very hard to get into the field and to get leveled up. Because especially nowadays, it is really competitive, especially if you're in the larger markets. So if you're not willing to go the extra mile, that could mean going to networking events. It means taking a job where you have to travel like maybe every other week. It might be harder for you to get inside. So it just depends.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with my point of entry, I started in building software just because I like building cool stuff. And when someone started paying me for it, the desire to enter the security side of that is, okay, so I'm building all this cool stuff. Now I don't want to be the reason why our company hits the front page news and has to notify all of our users of a breach. So learning how to lock that down, and it became almost a necessity to continue. Still to this day, I like building cool stuff. And part of my role here at my current company is head of products, and it's written in the title. We build products and we ship them out there, but we also have to maintain that security aspect of it. So yeah, absolutely, you've got to tie it back to something you enjoy.
I agree. So to piggyback off with that, have you personally seen, I guess, in your path, Paul? You're more senior than I am. What's been like the biggest obstacle you've seen people like hit their head against when trying to get inside this field?
Thinking about that, I think it's getting into the trap of, oh, I need to learn more. Oh, I need to get this next certification, or I need to fit into this certain role rather than just doing it. You've said a number of times on past live streams that if you're not willing to do a certain task, then someone else is going to be willing to fit in. So you can't wait for the perfect opportunity. If you want to be a cybersecurity, if you want to be a threat hunter, you can't necessarily wait for that perfect threat hunting role that's fully remote, and you can't necessarily wait until you have all the certifications that you think you need on it. So being willing to move forward with something that you may consider a lesser role, or maybe something that is not completely aligned with what you want to do, apply a little bit of strategy to that. Use that as a strategic stepping stone to then move into those different roles. And Kenneth, I think you have a story about that upward mobility and that strategic motion from Publix, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory. I'm from Tampa, Florida originally, but I live in Dallas now. I think most people that watch this, I think know that. But if you didn't, that's where I'm from. So I worked at public supermarkets for what 4.5 years. So I joined when I was like 18 years old. I worked there for 4.5 years. I worked in the deli. So I fried chicken, made sandwiches, get yelled at by customers, had people try to throw soup in my face. It was a lot of fun. So when I was doing that, I did that for I think it was a year in or so. No, I was 2.5 years into 2018. So one of my biggest things I tell all my students and everyone that I know that is to let people know what your true desires are, so they're able to speak on your behalf when you're not inside their room. Because people can't help you if they don't know what you want, right? So you have to speak up and go for the things you actually want to do and tell people that, so they're able to help you out. People can't read minds, or at least I hope they can't. So that's just what I like to assume. So I did that. So I told my store manager, Morrissey at the time, or Laura technically, that I wanted to do cybersecurity technology. She's like, all right, cool. So whenever someone like asks me about that, I'll make sure to bring up your name. Like lo and behold, like a week later, she comes to me, hey Ken, you still said you wanted to do like cybersecurity. And I was like, yeah, of course. She told me that the director for Publix cybersecurity department is coming toward my store like in 2 weeks, and she wanted to see did I want to meet him. I said, of course I do. Then from there, I met him. His name was, or I guess his name still is Berkham Polo. He's not dead. He sat me down in the back office. He said he loved my energy and passion about this, and he said he wanted to give me a shot at the internship next year. He said there was like certain things he wanted me to do, and if I could do those, he can only guarantee me a spot on his team. Through 2019 summer. I think it was like studying for Security Plus, shadowing his team that fall, going to B-Sides Tampa, and then learning how to use Splunk. I did everything on that list. I interviewed for the spot like I think February. Fast forward to March, I get the offer letter. I'm so damn happy. I was in Chick-fil-A, I remember the recruiter called me. I stood up also like flip over the desk or the table, but I'm like, oh wait, I'm in public, I can't do that. So yeah, that was really, really cool experience. But yeah, that basically because I told Laura, like the things I wanted to do. If I didn't do that, I never would have got that spot, honestly. So if you want something, like please do speak up for it. So people are able to help you out. It's I guess from like my perspective, Paul, is like people are afraid of looking dumb. So they'll like just stay quiet and like keep all their stuff towards themselves. But if your ability to like look stupid in public and then pick yourself up again will determine how successful you'll be in life, honestly. That's just really what it is.
Well, and here's the thing about that is the people who know, the people who matter, they don't think it's stupid. They understand the learning process. They understand that no one is perfect at something the first time they try it. So if anyone is going to ridicule and say that someone looks stupid at something, they really don't know what they're talking about, candidly.
Yeah. That's what I normally start to find out, right? Which is why I do stuff like this, right? Which is why I put myself out there and try to do the best that I can. That's literally all it is. I'm willing to like look dumb in public to get the things I want in private. This is how I've always seen it. Everything has a cost and a price tag towards it. It's just, are you willing to actually pay that price tag? Most people say they are, but the minute they see it, they don't want to, and so they get stuck in the same spot over and over again. So again, moral of the story from my lens is, if you want something, speak up for it. Certain stuff that people actually care about you, regardless of if it benefits them personally or not. That's why you have a true friend, a true feminist around you, and then put in the work to be successful at it.
Yeah, talking about that speaking up thing. So, I've mentioned that I started in web development and software engineering, and I did that for the Air Force, and I did that for a company before I joined Splunk. The guy I worked for at Splunk ended up becoming, at the company before, ended up becoming the CIO for Splunk. And, I told him from the beginning, at the time, I wanted to run IT departments. I wanted to be a CIO. Now, I've since changed my tune since then, now that I kind of understand the divisions of it better. So he mentored me. He gave me some executive training courses. And I never got a chance to exercise those at Splunk. Clearly, with Splunk growing, they had heads of products, heads of engineering, they all kind of people. And of course, with my experience at that time, it was a bit of a stretch. But I continued on the path that he set me on, ended up becoming an architect. And at a certain point, I met people that thought that I would be a good head of product. And it just naturally evolved. And of course, by then, I'd already made the decision for myself. Well, running IT isn't necessarily like, I would enjoy it, but I want to build products. I want to bring products to market, and I want to transform industries. So I don't think that those opportunities would have ever materialized if I hadn't asked or mentioned that to Doug and opened myself to that mentorship. But just setting my mind early on that this is the direction that I want to go, I could consciously direct my efforts, strategically align the roles that I was taking. But just knowing that energy helps you move even unconsciously toward that outcome. They have a saying when you ride motorcycles, you look where you want to go. So if you go look at the ground, you're going on the ground. If you look straight ahead, you're going to go straight ahead.
Okay, that's a pretty cool saying, actually. You look at the ground, you're going to the ground.
Yeah, and I can tell you firsthand experience that if you look down at the wrong time, you will end up on the ground.
Okay, that's good to know then. Okay. Oh, okay. So CTO. So I guess we can dive in deeper inside of that for the audience. So how come you didn't want to like run like the entire technology division, in your opinion, Paul?
Well, it comes down to, I mentioned that I like building cool things, and information technology, IT, is ultimately an enabling tool. It enables an organization to sell their products, to build their products. And don't get me wrong, it's super, super important. There's a lot involved in it. And the role of a modern CIO is changing every single day. But really, it was kind of a misunderstanding of the roles early on in my career. See, a CTO for a tech company, for a software company, is a little bit different than a CTO for a non-tech company. A CTO for a non-tech company is more analogous to a CIO, where they're responsible for their internal use of the technology, whereas a CTO in a technology company is typically responsible for the external technology or the technology that the company is building. And going back to my early days, I mentioned that I just like building cool stuff. That aligned with exactly what I wanted to do. So it's not that I didn't necessarily want to run the IT organization. It's that I wanted to continue following my passion of building cool stuff and bringing new stuff to market.
Got you. People are probably going to also ask you, does one pay better than the other?
Again, that depends. I'm going to give the standard consulting. I've been in a consultant training class all day, so I'm going to give the standard consulting answer. It depends. If you're looking, once you get to a certain point, executive pay, at least in terms of base salary, more or less levels out. You've got kind of this range that you hit, and then you have to start looking at things like, first of all, the experience you're getting, any type of non-salary compensation. Software companies will often offer stock options. You've got things like bonuses, and smaller companies, you've got profit sharing. So it's looking at the growth opportunities, looking at that flexibility, and then looking at the non-cash compensation that you get. But again, at a certain level, it's all really the same.
Okay. I'm pretty sure someone asked that in the comments, like how much does one pay over the other? They all pay very well, by the way, guys.
Salary.com is your friend. Salary.com. Look it up. It's a great ballpark. There's a lot of nuance it does not account for, but it's a great starting point.
Yeah. Once you get towards like the C-suite, you normally make pretty decent money for most majority positions, especially for Fortune 500 companies.
I'm not Fortune 500, but I don't complain.
Okay. Okay. So we covered so far the difference between cyber and IT, what we have done in our various roles, what some roles pay compared to others. Let's dive in deeper, Paul, inside some of the pitfalls between trying to go directly to IT compared to directly to cybersecurity. And let's like give some, I guess, client avatars, since we're both consultants, as to like who should do what. I'll give the first one. Let's say we have someone who's in their early 20s, straight out of college, they got a degree like in IT, and they want to do cybersecurity as their first role, but they're not too picky about it. what route would you give them or suggest towards them based off of that avatar?
Again, it depends. It's like, what is the market currently hiring for? Like, again, if it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I would say take the easiest point of entry. Once you're actually working, once you're actually in an organization, it becomes far easier to leap laterally as roles start opening up. So again, if it's all a wash, I would say go for the lower hanging fruit. Get your foot in the door. That's the most important part.
Okay. Just to play devil's advocate, what if someone says they don't know where to exactly start to get their foot in the door? Like, what company should they go for? Like, what type of position should they try to apply for? Get their foot in the door.
So, it's an interesting question.
I get asked it a lot. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's I have to think about that for a moment. If you have specific experience, like if you have worked specifically with threat hunting, and I know we talk about Splunk a lot, so if you've got experience using that, seeing a Splunk role or something that aligns with your experience is probably going to be your better bet. But I would say just in general, looking for smaller companies. Larger companies are going to look for specialists even at the lower levels, versus smaller companies are looking for more of someone with a broader and not necessarily as deep knowledge base, personal knowledge base, because we know that skills can be trained, but having that drive to learn more, wanting to get in there, wanting to take more responsibility, that's something intrinsic to a person, and that's very, very hard to train into someone.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's still go off of avatar. The person, let's say, is male or female. We'll go female. They're, let's say, 23 years old. They just graduated from the GT. It was a Georgia Tech University. A GT pronunciation for it. Okay, I think it's like Georgia Tech. I should ask my dad. He went there. He's mad at me. So let's say they went there. It's a really good technology school. They have their bachelor's, and they're willing to move if they have to move. What would you tell them? If they're willing to move anywhere in the country to get a job, what would you tell them initially?
Go to the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, or go to Seattle. Those are going to be probably the easiest places to get a job. And it's really just about, you mentioned a lot of times the value of networking. As you're job hunting, those regions are going to give you the opportunity to connect more easily in person with like-minded people in the industry. You're going to have more events where you can potentially show off some of the work that you have done, but move closer to where the jobs are. And outside of those, Dallas is certainly an area. Denver is an area that has a significant tech presence, has a lot of events. Follow the area that you're going on LinkedIn. Look at the type of events. Particularly, a lot of smaller companies will offer free or very, very low-cost networking events to go to. But you're not going to make an event in Soma, San Francisco, if you're over there chilling in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah, I would say you can go like on Google as well and look up like the top 20 tech metros. Then look to see which one matches your style, your belief system, the area, the weather, and pick the best one that best suits you. Right. The bigger ones will be New York City, because every major company point normally has a headquarters there or some type of form, right? Seattle, like you said, San Francisco, LA, Dallas, Atlanta's a really big one. Miami's growing as well. So just don't try to pick a larger city like that, but try to build yourself up with. It makes it a lot easier to try to land a job. For me, for example, again, I'm from Tampa. First time I went to Texas was to look for an apartment with my mom. Second time was to move on myself. And I knew absolutely nobody here. So it was very, very hard and very isolating because I moved during COVID. But I did it because I wanted to be able to actually build my career up. And I've been here ever single since. So it's the way I view things is, if I wasn't willing to do it, someone else was going to do it, then get the job that I wanted. So I did it. Just kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's a similar story to me moving to the Bay Area. So despite the fact that I'm currently in Denver, my first I should say official job in tech was in Redwood City in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so what I did was my last 3 months that I was in the Air Force, I put a resume on Dice. I used the experience that I had built up pretty much on a special duty there. And a recruiter come up. I was living in Idaho at the time. And a recruiter comes up and they're like, hey, we've got this job in Redwood City. You going to move? I'm like, hell yeah, I'll move. So I did the exact same thing. Moved to the Bay Area. Didn't know a single person there and ended up planting and very much enjoying it for 14 years. Now, a little bit different is, of course, once I got more senior in my career, then I had the opportunity to move out here to Denver. Very similar story. I didn't know anyone out here, but once you establish yourself, you can get to the point where you can move around and go somewhere that you want to go and have the job follow you.
Yeah, it's hard to get especially if you're entry level, it's very hard to get a fully remote job, especially directly out of college. Only reason I got it was because of COVID, because everyone was remote. So that was just the default option. No one was in the office. But especially nowadays, it is very hard to get like an entry level remote job. I mean, a lot of people ask for help. I'm like, I won't go in person. I won't be remote. I'm like, all right, good luck then. I probably can't help you out, honestly.
My first job in Redwood City, I was in the office 5 days a week, and I worked there from, what years was that? I worked there for just over 3.5 years. Every single day I was in the office. Now, do a little bit of homework before you move there, because I said I was very happy to move to Redwood City. I looked it up on a map before I went. I moved to San Jose and I worked in Redwood. I'm like, oh, that's just 20 miles and it's right up the 101. Oh, that'd be a quick commute. No, that's an hour and a half in Bay Area traffic. Both ways. So do a little bit of homework on traffic patterns when you get there. But I mean, point is I still went into the office every single day. Now, when I started working for Splunk, for the first 2.5 to 3 years, I went in every day. And as I moved up in seniority, that's when I started to get the flexibility to work from home for a little bit. But it wasn't until after I had moved up to a principal level that I was able to get my first fully remote job. And that was even a year after I left Splunk. So you're spot on. If you have this dream of having fully remote and working in your PJs all day, and you're going to be waiting a long time. The reality is with enough time and patience, you can get anything you want. Can your finances hold on for as long as it takes you to land that unicorn of a job?
Most people, given how we spend in America, no.
Yeah. Most people can't afford to spend 1 or 2 months without income.
Yeah, so definitely understand. Again, like be realistic for what for things you actually want to get out of your career. I've had people who turn down like in-person jobs because they want a remote job and they couldn't get a job in another 10 months. I'm like, it's not that bad. Like being in the office it's not that bad in most cases.
No, it's really not.
No. For most times. But just like if people you work with are kind of weird, which they might be, just like put your head down and do what you have to do, then leave. That's honestly what I'll tell you. I've been remote for, other than like my internship, I've been fully remote. I started during COVID, I just kind of kept that. But I mean, for me, I travel like every month on average. So that's how I make it up. I travel every month. Then I normally go towards different events, probably once or twice a week. So even though myself, I'm fully remote for travel, I'm still out and about at least like once a week to meet different people.
Right.
So if that is you, right? If you do have a remote job, right? You're trying to get promoted, or you're trying to level up, or meet new people, definitely go to different events in your area in the city. It helps out. Funny story, Paul. I get a lot of people from like NYC that like reach out towards me for help, and talking towards this one person. This was like I think last year, or a couple months ago. They were saying how they can't meet anyone inside the field, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, where do you live again? It's like NYC. I'm like, there's like 30 million people within like a 10-mile radius of like where you live. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like there's literally that. So my thing is like we live in like those type of cities. The entire point why everyone lives here is to meet different people. Part of the reason why it's so expensive. It's one of the competitive places on the planet. But because of that, everyone that is there is very unique and very talented normally. So it's very easy to normally meet a lot of very talented and driven people if you live like in NYC, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, right? Please take advantage of that. If you live like in NYC or you live in LA or you live in Seattle, right? Take advantage of that opportunity to meet different people. I promise you there are events all the time. I guarantee it.
There are, but it's also about, again, knowing your target on that. Sure, New York City is massive. Los Angeles is massive. New York City is also known for finance, not tech. Don't get me wrong, there's certainly a tech presence there. To your point, a lot of big consultant, advisory firms, tech have a presence there. I can't think of a single major tech company whose headquarters is in New York City. Likewise with Los Angeles. Los Angeles is known for entertainment, hospitality, services. Sure, it's massive. There are certainly companies that have a presence there, but that's not what it's known for. And that's why, I went to San Francisco and to Seattle by default. Microsoft is headquartered in Seattle. Splunk was headquartered in San Francisco. Cisco's headquartered in San Jose. So sure, there might be 30 million people around, but how many of those are in the industry that you're looking for? Now, to your point, use that if you're going to stay there, use that and change the conversation. Instead of saying, hey, I need to find a cybersecurity or an IT or software engineering firm, start to understand the people around you and their business. Because everyone needs cybersecurity services, whether they fund that in-house, whether they go with consultants. So getting to know more industries, getting to know people's business, getting to know what people want to protect and what type of specific risks affect specific industries is still going to help you, even if there isn't necessarily a large cyber or tech presence in those areas.
That's a really good point, Paul. Most companies do have offices in like NYC, but they're not all the people that are there are not always tech related.
Yep.
Google has an office I think in like Lower Manhattan, but that's like their business division, that's not their tech division. Even so, though, I would say just to talk with them, they probably do know some that does work
Absolutely.
in the tech division, right? So it's a very small world. Because my apartment complex, which I just moved into 3 weeks ago. I love it, by the way, Paul. It's insanely nice. It's very expensive, but it's very nice. So I went towards a mixer downstairs because there's like a bar, there's 2 bars built inside of my complex. I was talking towards this guy, and he saw my Akatsi Naruto bracelet that I normally wear. And he's like, do you watch Naruto? I was like, yeah. So we started talking. And he's apparently the chief of staff at Crunchyroll. But Crunchyroll's
Okay.
U.S. headquarters is like not across the street, but like 2 miles away from where I live.
Did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So their office is beautiful, by the way. I drive by all the time on my weekend trips. So like their U.S. headquarters is like 2 miles away from like where I live, and like the chief of staff just happens to live in my apartment complex. So like
Okay.
proximity to like really cool people is very important, which is partly why I moved towards this nicest apartment is because I figured a lot of really successful people will be there.
Right.
Because it is very expensive and you kind of have to make a decent amount of money to live there. I think one of the VPs for Boeing is also in my apartment complex too.
Okay.
So it's like a lot of really cool people that live in there. So I'm trying to make those connections.
Right.
Makes it easier because it's just downstairs. I don't really have an excuse. I just walk downstairs or to take the elevator. So for a lot of you guys that live in like denser areas and take advantage of that, just talk to people. You'll be surprised about who does what and who knows who.
I know a guy here in Denver who chooses to live down. Now, see, I've gotten past the point in my career where I want to live downtown. I enjoy a little bit of space, but of course, I also have the luxury of having experience behind me. But I know a friend of mine here in town who lives downtown for very, very similar reasons. And of course, he does pay the higher rents on that, but he's close to everything. He's walking distance from anything he needs to get to, and he meets all kind of people in the building he lives.
Yeah. Don't be shy, guys. I should know this. I'm a very introverted person naturally, even though I do all this stuff. Again, I just don't care about looking dumb in public anymore, so I'm just gonna do it. So definitely talk to people. Realistically speaking, the worst thing to do is they'll tell you is no. That's probably the worst thing that'll happen towards you. But more than likely, they'll probably tell you yes. For the things you're trying to ask, like, hey, are you free for lunch like in the next couple of weeks? Or hey, you have 10 minutes to talk? Oh yeah, sure. More than likely, they'll probably say that. How it works.
Well, you could never get a yes. If you never ask the question, the answer is always no.
No.
Always.
Yeah.
And it
So
only takes one. If you get told, if you ask 100 people and you get told 99 times no, it only takes one yes. That's all it takes.
to change your life, yeah.
Yes.
Same thing with me in Publix. I told no a lot of times. I had people for help, and they said, "No, not really." Or didn't know anybody. Also, the one person that changed my life. So definitely, guys, just ask. Promise you. It's funny, Paul. All my students like, "Hey, Kenneth, like, how do you meet all these cool people? All these podcast things you're doing, all these deals you get. How's it happen?" I'm like, I just asked them. Like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I literally just asked. I'm like, hey, can I go? Hey, can I go to your show? Oh yeah, sure thing, Kenneth. Hey, this new deal you're doing. It's okay if I like try to get in it? Oh yeah, sure thing. So what's your skill set? I mean, same thing for you, Paul. I'm like, I just asked you to do me a podcast. You said, oh yeah, sure thing.
Yeah.
That was it. Again, guys, promise you, it's not that hard. It's just, you literally just ask.
Well, if you remember, I was looking to get into this, but actually you remember, but I'm sure the audience doesn't. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I wasn't necessarily sure what I was going to talk about. You see very successful Twitch streamers, and what they do is they play video games and they talk all day long. Who the hell wants to see me just Splunk all day long, right? So I couldn't necessarily see myself as a Splunk streamer or something like that. I'm like, I don't know what I want to talk about. And that's whenever we connected and met through Jordan, and you're like, hey, well, I need a co-host for next year. So I'm like, yeah, sure, let's start there. Let's figure it out. And here we are. This is our, fourth episode this year?
Yeah, it's for fun. So, moral of the story, guys, lifelong or life-changing connections are just behind the veil, just asking. That's literally what it is. So don't be afraid. Or you can still be afraid, just do it. All right? Which is half the time what I do. I'm still afraid. I'm so stupid, but I still just ask.
The fear doesn't go away. The fear of rejection, the fear of looking stupid, it never goes away. That's a basic human response to things. So the trick is to do it anyway.
Okay. So, but we'll pause for a second. Are there any questions from the audience about anything we talked about so far? Maybe your questions about IT or cybersecurity, what's the best path for your personal situation? Drop those questions inside the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Oh, we have our first question, Paul. This is from Joseph. What would cause a company to blacklist you based on first impressions, even if you can get an interview? To blacklist you, unless you like threaten somebody or something, like first impressions. That's about it. But otherwise, you'd have to do something. Paul, anything to add?
Well, I would actually wonder what we mean by blacklist. Do we mean internally to that company? Do we mean industry-wide? Unless you have a nationwide trial for a capital felony, or you've something massive, I don't know of anything that would write you off across an entire industry. Internal to the company, you would have to overtly do something rude, do something illegal. You would have to try to get completely written off, I think, at your first interview. Now, if you're not necessarily at the level that they were expecting, sometimes you can overcome that by showing a desire to learn, by showing a good team fit, sometimes not. So that may disqualify you early on. Man, I think back, I'm not going to say any names. In the Splunk consulting world, there is a consultant who had a pretty good reputation for being a solid enterprise security, threat hunting, threat detection engineer. But my guy wasn't a people person. And his first answer, whenever a client would ask what we should do with our environment, is burn it to the ground, fire everyone, and rebuild it from scratch. Even that guy still kept getting interviews and jobs. Like, I don't know, you got to do a lot to get blacklisted across an industry, if it's even possible.
I've had friends our friends I know have worked people that have been blacklisted before, but they lied about certain legal things and they got in trouble, and the company got in trouble, and that's why they got blacklisted from it. But otherwise, other than that, though, even if you do a crappy job, unless you punch them in the face or stab somebody or something crazy like that, you'll normally still get a second chance, or you won't be blacklisted. They probably just won't want to hire you. But for you to be like on their official list like that, actually decently hard.
Yeah, usually that's going to come down to failing a background check. To your point, doing something illegal, having something on your record that you haven't taken care of. Depending on the industry, even everything's waivable when the right conditions. It's hard. I wouldn't worry about that. What I would focus on is, unless of course you've done something, and please don't answer that on this live stream. Unless there's something specific you're worried about, I think the better use of the energy is to focus on how to make those good impressions, to be able to take the feedback, both verbal and nonverbal, from interviews, and look forward to how you can present better in the next one.
I agree as well. But yeah, thanks for your question, Joseph. Are there any more questions at all for us? Please drop them inside the chat. So we're able to answer them towards the best of our ability. Anything about like, hey, like Kenneth and Paul, I'm in cybersecurity, but I don't know what route to go. Or hey, I'm in IT currently, but I don't know what part of cybersecurity I should try to pivot into. Should it be DevOps? Should it be detection engineering? Should it be drowning? And the other nature, feel free to drop those questions inside the chat for us. We're able to answer it. Yeah, but after the last probably 15 minutes we'll spend on just answering your questions, give you guys that chance too. Again, like we're talking about, don't be shy. If you have something, just speak up. Worst thing we'll do is just say no, we can't answer that or something. So just ask. That's what I'll tell you. But we are, side note, we are working on creating an internship program for it, for the cyber range. So what that would be a separate tier people would pay towards. We would have we have full production enterprise environments, and there's certain tasks I want to make them actually do. So I'm able to actually they use me as a reference, and I can validate their employment with us. So that's going to be in the works for probably, I want to say maybe Q3, Q4, Paul. I'm working with Steve on that as well for some of the tooling for licensing.
That's certainly a benefit of degree programs, of credential programs, and also targeted programs like this, is being able to get into an internship program, being able to get more of that professional face time, and being able to build a network. So absolutely, that helps.
Yeah. Another question. This is from YouTube, actually. Nice. It's from Nicholas -D6N. Thanks for discussion, gentlemen. What's your take on Splunk? Is it enough on its own, or should it be come up with other specialty domains something similar to the ECA banner? I would say, Splunk is like big data on top of systems engineering, right? So you have to understand Linux fundamentals, Linux admin stuff as well. So what I did was I combined Splunk, and then I combined security on top of it. That's how I got inside the field. Paul combined Splunk with more observability, and then IT operations for his path. So it just depends. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, so IT ops and security was my point of entry, but my specialty for the last 10 years has been Splunk and engineering. So I've kind of got a name for myself for building custom content that's out there on Splunk base for extending the platform. I would say any tool on its own, depending on the level that you want to grow to, is going to get to a point where that alone is insufficient. So you get to a certain level where, and you find that the Splunk consultants saturate this very, very quickly, where everyone knows the basic level of consulting. Now, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself? To your point, Kenneth, about learning how to use it in cyber, learning how to use it in DevOps, learning how to connect it with other tools. I actually read that question less of, are Splunk skills intrinsically good enough for the job seeker? The way I read it was, is Splunk intrinsically sufficient for, say, a threat detection platform? And that was the direction I was going to take. And the answer to that is no, wholeheartedly no. Splunk is limited by the number of dollars you're going to throw at it. And the reality is most organizations don't have, or either don't want to spend the amount of money to bring in every byte, every bit of data that they create. So they pick and choose. They bring in the air quotes highest value on that. That's typically going to be the security related data. And a lot of the observability ends up falling aside just because they don't want to afford or can't afford to bring it into the system of analysis. So that's where other technologies like Elasticsearch, like Cribble, like next gen SIEM, and all of these other players start to come into the mix, is that by diversifying your platform of tools, you are able to analyze more data and create more outcomes. And of course, that requires more skills.
So I guess like moral of the story in that show is try to have a decent broad set of the fundamentals and try to specialize in these down once you get those skill sets going.
Treat specific platforms as a tool, as a means to an end, not the end itself.
All right, so if you want to do Splunk specifically, again, learn system fundamentals, learn OS, how the data get generated from one end towards the other. The reason being is so you're able to pivot and use other ecosystems and other platforms and then other areas of cybersecurity, right? So if you want to do threat hunting, which isn't specific for Splunk, you can do threat hunting in any single area or arena. You need to know other fundamentals of that regard, right? So keep that in mind.
So, fun fact, part of the reason I'm so tired today is because I am actually retaking Splunk Consultant Bootcamp to refresh my certification. And some people have told me I'm absolutely crazy for this, and I try to tell them, I specialize in Splunk development, so I don't do a lot of the cluster expansions, a lot of kind of the infrastructure consultant work day in and day out, so I wanted to refresh on it. Call it sadistic, whatever you want, but that's what I chose. Anyway, I'm sitting there thinking as we're going through our first lab in the class today, I'm like, wow, I would be so much further behind on this if I didn't have solid Linux skills. I would be so much further behind on this if I didn't understand operating systems and networks, even down to the simple ability to copy files securely between one server and another. And of course, these skills have absolutely nothing to do with Splunk, but without my instructors may be watching. So without getting into the course material as what we covered, I even at my level found myself very, very grateful that I had these foundational, these ancillary, these adjacent technology skills to be able to help me through even my coursework today.
Yeah, because I'm trying to do some rule creation and some tech engineering work for my current client, and I have to move stuff over. I'm really glad that one, I take really good notes, so anything I forget, I just write down so I don't forget again. And then just my understanding of how Linux actually works. A lot of people that don't understand how Linux works or how to actually do basic commands at the command line, they get stuck. So, important skills to learn, kids.
And see, this is where being a nerd in middle school really, really helped out, because I didn't really leave my room. I installed Slackware on a Slackware Linux. If anyone, I don't think, I may have just dated myself. I don't think anyone on this stream knows what the Slackware distribution of Linux is. It's really, really, really old, but it was a flavor of Linux you can install and just kind of poke around at it. And it is so much different than command line Windows. Now, in fairness, Windows over the past several releases have come up with more Unixy type commands, but they're still not parity. It's still not one-to-one. Things behave differently. That's why I advocate for Macs if you can afford it for engineers, because that's going to be closer to a Linux environment, especially if you're using things like terminal. The reality is this Mac is built on BSD kernel, and BSD is a flavor of Unix, and Linux is a derivative. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent there. Point is, yes, learn Linux, and there are ways to help you do that.
Next question would be from Jerome Keith. I've seen people found a successful path from IT to cybersecurity, as well as people coming from backgrounds such as nursing, teaching. Both of them are good despite having non-tech backgrounds. Do y'all think this industry is taking or should take more chances with people coming from non-tech backgrounds? Forums such as Reddit believe the best path is 5 years IT engineering, then to pivot to cybersecurity. There is like no one set path to get inside cybersecurity, right? You should and you need to understand IT fundamentals, right, to be successful within cybersecurity over the long haul, right? But it just depends. So what do you think about that, Paul?
I agree. Yeah, and the reason I'm laughing here is if we're taking career advice from Reddit, remember Reddit said in 2021 that Dogecoin was going to be $10 a coin by now. I'm pretty sure I sold my stake at half of what I paid into it, so I'm not sure that I put full stock in anything we find on Reddit. That being said, the path is really different. I remember at that company I was at before Splunk, we started talking about the degrees that we had, and one of our senior system administrators there, my guy had an economics degree, and another one had a degree in mathematics. In tech, it's less about your degree is more of a box that shows that you have a broad education, that you understand different aspects of life, different aspects of business, and it's more of a
Baseline.
almost a baseline foundation. I'm trying to find the right word. It's just showing that you can commit to something, finish, follow through with it, and that you're a well-rounded person. What really matters in cyber, what really matters in software engineering, what really matters in IT is, do you know your stuff? And that's where taking things like SideQuest, getting plugged into things like ECA, getting plugged into like the TriHackMe's out there, and being able to build a portfolio with software engineers, getting on GitHub, plugging into open source projects, even if it's not necessarily paying the bills. It's more about developing and showing that you have those skills. The exact path you took there at a certain level isn't going to matter much.
That is one of the really cool things about cybersecurity specifically, but tech overall is it isn't like a medical lawyer where you have to go to school.
Exactly.
There's no, you can't like YouTube your way to being a doctor or a brain surgeon. That's not how it works. You go to jail for that.
Yes.
Same thing for a lawyer.
Exactly.
Right. You can't just say, hey, I watched Law and Order for 3 years. I'm ready for this. It's not how it works, right? So one of the cool parts is you can pivot from almost any single field if you're willing to put in the work and be patient with it to be successful in such a field, which is one of the things I do love about being in this industry. Is I can take someone that was a deli clerk or does work in public and I can make them a good cybersecurity engineer, right? So if you're willing to like do the work, be patient, taking the right steps in order to be here, then you can be successful. I think anybody can, or most people can. So there are certain oddballs, but yeah. He also put, especially with the threat landscape nowadays, seems like we need more cybersecurity than ever before. I do agree with that. Landscape has changed, especially with a lot of these AI platforms just being thrown out there and not really tested at all. Especially with what was it? I think Anthropic released, or their PR team said they're gonna do some type of AppSec platform to scan vulnerabilities inside of your code base, and all of stock prices dropped. Even though they said they're going to release it one day, they didn't say it is released. It hasn't been tested yet.
So then, who's gonna scan that agent? Yeah, that's circular reasoning, but the gist of it is accurate, is that cybersecurity is more important than ever, and it's only going to become more and more important. Something that a lot of people, even still to this day that I work with, don't understand is every single line of code that's written, it doesn't matter if it's written by a human, a robot, or anything between, that is a liability. That is a potential attack vector. And the more technology gets out there, the more code gets out there, the more anything with an attack service gets out there, the more people are going to try to attack it, and the more people are going to need to secure it.
Yeah, because especially with all these models, people say this. I'm like, well, what is it? The AI platform going to base its knowledge based off of? It's ingesting some type of data, right? But where's it coming from, though? Because it's gonna scan like my code base and say, hey, this is malicious. I'm gonna ask, what am I asking? Well, like, why? Where are you getting these resources from? Like where? What company?
Well, the AI models are trained on the whole of the internet, and so when you've got a training baseline of every piece of documentation that's out there, as well as every known vulnerability that's out there, it becomes much easier to exploit and much more efficient to exploit. And the thing about cybersecurity is it's a bit of a power imbalance in that your cyber organizations are having to find ways to defend against hundreds or thousands of threats, but your attackers only have to know one and be really good at it. And it's those brand new ones that people haven't seen, what they call 0 days, that are typically responsible for some of your largest breaches out there, that are responsible for some of your largest incident responses out there. And that's one thing. Now, we may get to a point where we have things like AGI and super intelligence. It's going to prove me wrong. But for the time being, something an AI can't do is do something it has not seen before. And that's something a human can do.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that. I'm quite curious to see. But keep on pushing these things out without testing it. A lot of it is still just kind of slop. What is it? I think It's like 80 or 90% of like the AI companies have either gone under, or have not provided value towards their corporations.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know not a single one of them is turning a profit right now. In fact, they're hemorrhaging cash. So I think that kind of speaks to the effective market penetration at this point.
Yeah, because one of the training these models, both the server space, the resources to get the land, the water usage, the power usage is insanely expensive.
And those costs are only going to go up. Water, power, all of that for now is a finite resource. And sure, you can say we can generate more power, but we're limited by infrastructure, we're limited by grid, we're limited by delivery. These are physical constraints. It's not about not having enough money. No, you physically can't pump more electrons through that wire. You can't create water out of that hole in the ground when none exists. Did not realize that was going to get you so hard.
Can't put more electrons. Oh, that is very true, though.
It's called the Pauli exclusion principle. There's a physics concept that says you can't fit more than a certain amount in a certain space, period. It just can't be done. Not without breaking the universe.
So, so there definitely is a limit on what it's going to do. And again, they spent trillions of dollars to build the solutions we have right now, and it's not profitable, right? And I don't see a way for it to make up for the amount of money they spent. I don't see a way from it. Even if everyone did a subscription, which most people wouldn't honestly need, right? Maybe ads. That's about it. That's the only way I can really think of it. To make up for the lost cost. But even so, they spend so much money on it.
Well, that's the catch-22 on it right now, is the amount of resources. I'm going to say resources. We're talking about chips. We're talking about training data. We're talking about energy. We're talking about all of it. The amount of resources it takes to continue innovating and to retrain these models is outpacing by orders of magnitude the revenue that's coming in. And again, that comes into the catch-22, because to get more revenue, you've got to have better models that are less sloppy, models that hallucinate less, right? Models that are better trained. But to do that, then you have to retrain them. Are we going to get to a point where the revenue exceeds that? I'm not certain. The trend across all of our technology history, I say all of that because we've only been building this shit for like the last 100 years. If you think about the whole of human history, all of this has happened in the last 100 years, and AI has really happened in the last 5, which is bonkers to think about. Any new technology that comes on the scene typically has a 5 to 10 year ramp up period, and during that first year, your R&D costs are an order of magnitude higher than your revenue, and you hit a point where that ends up inverting, and it becomes cheaper to manufacture, and because you get more efficient at it, you're able to use past knowledge, you're able to build on lessons learned. And AI isn't doing that, because every single iteration is something new, requires the latest and greatest hardware. It's not like you can build on, take farming, for example. You get better at it because we're working with the same piece of land and more or less the same technology over the span of a couple of decades, where those GPUs are obsolete in 1.5 to 3 years. And to keep up with the company that you're competing against, you've got to continue iterating on that. And I mean, don't get me started on the arms race, the international arms race with that. But now you've got nations trying to one up each other with it and spending more money. And there's just so many dynamics to this right now. I don't have a crystal ball on this. I don't know.
I don't either, sadly, but we'll see what happens. Are there any last minute questions? We just went out a little tangent. But are there any last minute questions for me and Paul about anything we covered today? Please drop them into the chat so we're able to answer them. Like last minute closing items, so like my end is, again, Cyber Range, right? Our goal is to get 100 members or so by end of March. We're at about, I want to say 29, 30 members so far. So we have around 70 more to go. Once we hit that threshold, or probably by the end of March, we're going to start to raise the price. We're going to be adding other things. So you want access towards it, the links are inside of the chat that we have here on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So if you have questions about it, or you want access towards it, just let me know. DM me, DM Paul, or you can directly sign up using that link. We've reorganized the page on that front to make it more organized. Beta version of the app is on that page as well, so you're able to check that out. So a lot of really cool things are happening for that.
Anyone else pop up last minute?
I don't think so. From my end, it was Jerome. Perfectly, Zaki. Well, I was thinking, thank you. Awesome. Jerome, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Nicholas. Great. Thanks for the insight, Paul. Thanks, Ken, too. All right. I think those are all the questions. So if that is it from y'all, we will be back in around 2 weeks. Paul, I'm gonna create the invite for the finance session. That'll be our next session, guys. I'll be probably on a Tuesday night. That's when Markeisha is free. So it'll be me, Markeisha, and Paul talking about all things money and finance related. So yeah,
We thought our last one was big. This one's probably going to knock that out of the park.
Probably. So yeah, if you want access towards it, just watch my page. It'll be my personal page this time. But otherwise, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.